morning. I'm Will Morley with another word from Will, little instances in the life of a Baptist preacher. One area of church life that all pastors have to deal with is in the area of benevolence. That is, helping poor church members and poor people living in their community with the necessities of life, mainly food, gas, clothing, and shelter. The questions that needed to be answered are, who do we help, how much do we help, and when do we help? We have a church policy that covers those three areas. 1% of all our giving goes into the benevolence fund to help those in need, and we like to keep a goodly amount in that fund. So by giving through the church, you are actually helping the poor and the needy. And we always have a well-stocked food pantry for our First Baptist Church members and those in our community. We even have members who will go to Costco and buy cases of food and then bring it back and put it in the pantry. We have a food pantry director who's in charge of it, keeping it open and functioning. But this is a problem that is never going to go away. Jesus said in Matthew 26:11, "For you have the poor with you always." One of the scriptures that I use to guide me is Galatians chapter 6, verses 9 and 10. It says, "And let us not grow weary while doing good. For in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart. Therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all, especially to those who are of the household of faith." Where it says, "Let us not grow weary or discouraged or disheartened in doing good," that is, helping others, you might say, what could be tiresome about helping those in need? Well, first of all, people in need, poor people, are sinners, just like everyone else. And they can be cheats, they can be deceptive, liars, and thieves. Let me give you an example. One lady called the church one morning and told how she was in desperate need of food. At that time, we didn't have a food pantry. So my secretary, Miss June, and I pooled our money and came up with $50. So at 9 o'clock in the morning, I went out and shopped and got what this lady wanted: milk and bread and eggs and some fruit and potatoes and meat, $50 worth of food. When I took them over to her address that she gave us, I knocked on the door, and a woman yells out, "Come on in." I opened the door, and here's this young woman sitting on the floor in the middle of her living room with a phone book open and a telephone in her hand. And there was food surrounding her. Some of it went clear to the ceiling. When I introduced myself and why I was there, she became flustered. Obviously, I had caught her calling other churches asking for help. I turned around, shut the door, and went back to my car, called Miss June, and we both knew of a family that could use the food, so I took it to them. My point is, these scammers will come up with a good story that pastors fall for and will use it till they get caught. One time we had a lady call and said that her dad had died in Oregon and she needed help to go to his funeral. So we bought her a bus ticket and gave her food money. I think it was about $100 total. Well, a year later, this same woman called the church again and used the same story. The church administrator and I had a big laugh that she could be so stupid. I mean, how many times can her father die? Here's what I think they do. They call all these churches and they don't keep a record of who they've called, and they don't remember why they asked for help. Many of these people are vile beyond belief. My associate pastor, Shay Hicks, took a call from a man who wanted money. And Pastor Shay said, "We can bring you food, we can pay for a night in the motel, or put gas in your car, but I can't give you cash." But the man wanted cash. And when Pastor Shay wouldn't give it to him, the man started quoting scriptures to him. And when Shay still wouldn't give it to him, he called the pastor just about every filthy name you can imagine. I know because Pastor Shay put him on speakerphone. And then some church members can be just as wicked, just as deceptive. I had a lady come into my office, a church member needing $260 to pay a fine or she was going to jail. Well, the church doesn't allow me just to pass out any amount of money. So I gave her cash out of my wallet, and she insisted on signing a note that she would pay me back in 1 week. Well, we didn't see her again for about 2 years when she got herself in another mess. And we had helped her at other times over the years, and we always thought she might not be telling us the truth. You say, well, that was pretty stupid. Well, we always try to err on the side of helping people. I must have been too soft to touch, because the church actually took the benevolence fund away from me and gave it to the deacons. And I found out our deacons are just as soft-hearted as I am. We have found this is what happens. When you help one person in need, they have friends or a community around them, and they tell them, and then they all call us for assistance. My wife used to accuse me of putting the church phone number with a need help sign on the rest areas along the interstate because we got so many calls. But it's tough to help the poor when you yourself are not well off. So it is tough. It's taxing. It's trying, mainly because of the scammers. As a Christian, because of these people, we can become cynical if we don't watch our hearts. I believe our church is one of the most loving, giving churches in Washoe Valley. And so one still has to be wise and discerning. We follow where it says, therefore, as we have opportunity, as we are able, let us do good to everybody, especially to those who are of the household of faith. If there's any way we can, we try and help everyone who asks for help, but especially the members of our church. By the way, that's a good reason to become part of a church. If hard times hit, the church body is always there to help. Over the years, we have taken up many love offerings, $1,000 up to $10,000 to help a member through sickness or death or loss of job or other difficulties. One of the things that I've started to do to weed out these scammers is when they offer to pay it back, I say, okay, if that's what you want. And that really does keep them from asking a second, third, and fourth time, because chances are they never did plan on paying us back the first time. But if they do pay us back, it allows us to help them and others again. Certainly, we would never ask someone to pay back a genuine gift of mercy. But as in everything in life, nothing is open and shut. Nothing is easy as it seems. And then we always take copies of their driver's license for security reasons. And I use that opportunity to share Christ, share the gospel with them, pray with them, give them a monthly devotion, and give them a Bible. But I could share many sad and humorous reasons why people have asked for help in my encounters with them. Just one last encounter. One man needed money to buy food for his 2 kids. And he had his 2 kids in the truck outside, and I went out and seen him. And he was genuine, so I gave him $100. And then he kept on talking, and he talked about his dogs and how they needed food. And here he had 2 big old dogs, and he, to me, seemed more concerned about feeding those dogs than he was his kids. And I scolded him for it. And he got mad at me and threw the $100 down and left. So there you have it. Another incident in the life of a pastor that can be challenging and rewarding, and yet sad and heartbreaking. May the Lord bless you, and I hope to see you next time with a word from Will.